Welcome to What's on Your Bookshelf, a life and leadership podcast where we live out loud the pages of the books that are on our shelves, with your hosts, Denise Russo and Sam Powell.
Hi, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of What's on Your Bookshelf. This is our life and leadership podcast where we're living out loud the pages of the books that are on our bookshelves. The book that we're diving deep into today is called Let Them by Mel Robbins. My name is Denise Russo. My co-host is Sam Powell. Sam, you never have stressed me out, but this chapter is about letting everybody else stress us out.
Yeah, I love the title of this chapter because it's absolutely not what you want to do at all. Let them stress you out, and it's it's the perfect viral title, right? It's like just antagonistic enough to make you be like, no, absolutely not. I'm not gonna let them stress me out. And you and I keep talking about this, right? Like we're always there's something a little bit skeptical we come into this with, and then by the end of it, like it's deep enough, it's rich enough, it's got the right stuff that it's like, I don't know, my whole thing is pink and highlighted and all that sort of good stuff. So I'm really looking forward into getting into this one.
On my first page of this chapter, instead of highlighting the whole thing, I don't know if you'll be able to see it on the camera, but I have an exclamation mark over the whole entire paragraph just because I was like, yeah, the whole page. Okay. So she says that work is the number one cause of life stress for most people, which is why we call our podcast a life and leadership podcast. And how many times have we said there's no such thing as work-life balance? We have a life. Work is part of it. She says here that your manager has as much impact on your mental health as your spouse.
Right? Because they're the person who sets the tone for, just the entire work day, your entire work week, and all the stress that you carry. We talked about that like at the end of last episode of, like there's no line, like you carry everything back and forth with you wherever you're at. You are who you are and you're carrying whatever you're carrying. The environment might look a little different, but like, yeah, your spouse is that key person. The partner you walk through life with is the person or people that you impact outside of work the most, and your boss is the person who impacts the most at work. And it's funny, I've read that quote, I've had that quote sent to me by people who worked for me before. Like I always have this initial reaction to that concept, that idea of like, oh gosh, I just hope I was the person, like when I had employees, when I had people who, I served in that capacity, like I just hope I did the right by them. I hope that I was a positive factor in their life and not the cause of more stress. And I know that sometimes I was the cause of more stress. Sometimes I messed up. Sometimes I, was the person who just did the wrong thing and created that stress in somebody else. And it's like, I hope that on average, I hope that most of the time I was getting it right and was helping people and wasn't stressing them out, right? And wasn't the cause of that, because it's so true. I mean, I think anybody who's had a good boss and had a bad boss and had all the bosses in between, like, how true it is and how much it affects, the 40 plus hours you spend at work and how that carries over to life.
Not everyone takes on a leadership role for the reason of wanting to serve the people that will be a part of their team. Oftentimes, either people get promoted because they were a great individual contributor and the boss thinks, well, that's your trajectory for your career, as you just move up a vertical ladder. Sometimes people just want power because they feel like they were maybe disempowered when they weren't the boss. Some people, personality style is such that they are not people-oriented people, and maybe they're great operational leaders. Sam, you and I have history of working with both kinds of leaders, and John Maxwell says that people won't go along with you if they don't get along with you. And it's so true that eventually the stress and the burnout for your teammates is evident, tied to the way that you led. And it's hard because managers often are in the middle because they're also being led by somebody or being misled. by
Mhm.
somebody, but this is basically saying that you might feel all these feels if you're listening today: frustrated, discouraged, powerless, hostile, demoralized. Burnout is in record numbers. People are stuck in a state of chronic stress at work. You're seeing book after book come out on the bestseller lists now about resilience and stress and rising above and all these things.
Yeah.
And yet, a book can't change you. You have to change you. And I say that lightheartedly in a way because we're believing we're
We
living
read all these
through
books
these
to change
books.
us.
The books
Yeah.
are reminders to us of things we already know, which is the same thing as coaching, right? Like coaching can't solve your problems, but they help you uncover the answers you already know that you should be doing in your life.
Yeah, therapy is the same thing, right? Like going to therapy and showing up every week, going to a coaching session and showing up every week, reading a million books isn't going to change your life. It's you
Yeah.
doing something with it. It's you applying what it is. I sign off all my mini podcasts for locker room with, you got to put down the popcorn and get in the game, right? You got to stop being the bystander. You got to stop being the person in the stands of your own life and watching and just talking and circling and reading and doing all the stuff. You've got to get in the game. You got to get in action. You've got to step in and take control, right? And she says here, your stress at work isn't changing, so you need to change your approach to dealing with it. And
Mhm.
I don't know, I think I tell this to every coaching client that comes my way who's feeling this like I'm just burned out, I'm done. And I always say you got two options. You can either change your job, right? Like get out, or you can change your relationship with your job. And
Mhm.
sometimes you can't get out. Sometimes you don't want to get out. Sometimes you want to stay at the company. You want to stay on the team for whatever reason, or you have to for whatever reason, right? We don't
Mhm.
always have the luxury of blowing everything up and changing. And so you have to change your relationship or how you're dealing with the situation. And that's where this let them theory comes in, right? That's where this chapter is: let them stress you out. And so she says, if you're in a situation where you've put in the effort, you've had the conversation, you've asked for the salary increase, you've asked for the thing you've needed, you've hit your numbers, and you're still waiting on that promotion, that thing, whatever to change, and it's just not coming, you have to stop being mad and choosing what you're going to do about it.
Mhm.
So often I talk to people who are stuck in this like cycle of complaining about it. It's like, oh, I've done all this stuff. Like I'm trying to do what it is and nothing is changing and nothing is changing and nothing is changing. And the thing that goes through my mind every time is when somebody shows you who they are, believe them. And
Mhm.
so often we want somebody to do the right thing. We want things to be fair. We yearn and we reach for, and we talk about with our friends, right? This is like the girlfriend conversation over coffee of like, I just want the thing to change. And it's like, girl, it's not changing. Like, it is
Mhm.
not like they have shown you who they are through their actions. You and I were just talking about this today, a couple weeks ago, and like, some of our own situations of like, this is what it is and
Yeah.
believe it. And so then what am I going to do about it? Once I believe that their action is what they are, who they are right now, then what do I do in response, right? Where is my power in this? Where do I step in? And she says, there's always a next move. And I like highlighted that. Like there is always a next move and you get to choose it. And it's what you choose that makes all the difference, right? It's the let me part of the let them theory.
A lot of our clients, Sam, are people that have either lost their jobs, been laid off, et cetera, that are looking for their next career move. But I will say that there's also likely some of you listening out there that you're stuck and you are at a job, but you're at a job you don't like. Maybe you like the work, but you no longer feel excited about the company's values or culture. Maybe you like your team, but you don't really resonate with the people that are around the rest of your team. And so she says in here that there's always that next move where you were talking about that. I circled it, I underlined it, I highlighted it. And she said that your life and the possibilities in it are always way bigger than your current job. And I was telling somebody this week, they were looking at my kind of history, I guess, and were asking me about these pivots that I had in my career from moving from one industry to another industry to a different industry. And in all of those pivots, it was because I had to make an intentional choice to leave something behind to go towards something better. And I find with some of my clients, Sam, is they want to run away from where they are instead of running toward the thing where they want to be. And you know my heart for where I really, really want to be. And I've been trying for a really long time to get to that place of where I really want to be. And it doesn't mean that that opportunity will make itself manifest and be there or be available. You may not even get an interview. You may not even get the opportunity. But if you never try, then you definitely don't get the opportunity if you don't try. And so she says, you're never stuck. That's a lie that you tell yourself. You just have to believe that you don't have to stay stuck somewhere that makes you feel frustrated, demoralized, or stressed. And you need to focus on what that next best opportunity. And the best way to do that, I believe in my heart, is with a coach.
Yeah, it helps you get outside of yourself, right? Somebody else helps you give. I would say it's a coach is helping you facilitate a conversation with yourself, right? With your current self and the future self that you're yearning for, right? That's really where coaching, comes in. And, yeah, it's how do you go and get it, right? And so she says, like, let them string you along, right?
Mhm.
Let them do the things. But then it's time for let me, right? It's stop fixating on the current situation and start focusing on finding a better opportunity. Let me go get it. Let me change the game here. And, she says that your career is your responsibility and you have more power here than you think. It's time to start acting like it, right? And that's the part here that is like it's that, like you said, it's when you go get a coach, it's when you go get help, it's when you go find the resources, it's when you go, doing all of that. It's time to start acting like you've got power over your situation and your life, and there is always something to do. And like, I don't know how many conversations I've had with people, and even like with my own coaches, because I currently have two coaches, and it's it's me saying, oh, I'm just sort of stuck in this loop. Like, I know what I should be doing, maybe, but like I can't go do it. And then, after they ask me the right kinds of questions and help me dig down and deep, it's then go, oh, you're right. Like, I do know what the next step is. I do know what the next action is, right? It's time for me to start acting like I've got control here. Like I've got a lot more influence than I do. I just had a conversation about that this week of, like I said, I was like, hey, it's funny. I went into this conversation with my coach earlier this week with, like, I've got a good game plan. Like, basically the whole thing didn't start out with, here's this problem I'm struggling with, help me untangle it, because that's how a lot of the conversations start. It was, here's all the things that I'm doing, and I had no no questions. It was like, I'm executing a million things at the moment. Here's the plan. And as we talked, he helped me really think about, well, where am I not applying the lessons I teach or the things that I know to be true to this certain situation? Sure, I'm running a mile a minute, but am I doing the right thing? Am I doing the strategic thing? Am I leveraging the things that already exist in my life to make that happen? It was like this, like, light bulb moment for me of like, oh, man, I'm making the mistake that I coach people through all the time. And like, this is why we all need that outside perspective of somebody else coming in and saying, hey, are you seeing what I'm seeing as you tell me this story? And you're going, nope, sure wasn't, right? I was so laser focused on, here's the checklist, here's the plan, here's the things I need to go do, or here's the things I think I need to go do. I see that all the time, especially in people looking for new jobs. They're like, I've been applying a million times. I have sent out 150 applications and I've heard nothing. And it's like, yeah, of course you have, because that's not how this works now. And then they go, what? Right. And I was talking about, like, how I was building this whole list of, like, all these sports clubs and programs in the area. And I was like, okay, I'm going to outreach, I'm going to have conversations, right? Because that's the whole part of networking. It's what I should be doing. And he had asked me the question, he's like, but who do you already know? And I was like, darn it. Like, this is where I teach people. This is what I teach people in networking. This is what I teach people when they're trying to find a job. Start with the relationships you have. Start with who you already know. Start with the power that you've already accumulated. Start with the things that you already do. And that was where that's where it lies. And we so often just forget about the let me part of this. The
Yeah.
let me dig into what I already know. Let me dig into the uniqueness and the greatness that I've already accumulated after, 20 years of working in the world. And let me go do something smart and strategic with that.
We spent an entire year, Sam, talking about how to find our way to happiness. A whole year. 4 books that we went super deep on to how to seek happiness in your life. We've talked about uncluttering the thoughts in your mind. We've talked about how to remove relationships from our lives that don't bring us closer to the dreams that we have for ourselves. We've talked about how to unblock obstacles and just get out of our own thinking. And so you can stay where you are in a relationship or at your job or in the town you live in or in the group of people you hang out with. You could stay there. But she says in the book very clearly, if you're miserable, that's on you. And it's about a choice because you literally made that choice. I just told somebody this last week who's struggling with what to do about their job. They're unhappy at their job, but they don't have another opportunity yet, but they want to do good at their job, but they're in the middle of a reorg. And so I had written an article. If you're out there listening, you can just Google my name, Forbes, and Robert Frost. So it's based on the poem about where this man is approaching 2 roads that are splitting off and before he goes into the woods. And in the poem, it says that the guy has a choice to go one way or the other way. But I was really thinking about it before I had this coaching session with this client that you have 4 choices. You can go to the left, which is the road most traveled in the poem, which is everybody goes that way. It's got a lot of tread marks, it's got a lot of traffic. It's the way everybody goes, and that's the way that everybody would say, why wouldn't you go that way? That's the way I went. That's the way so and so goes. You could go the road less traveled, which is harder because maybe there's weeds and thickets and snakes, and you don't see a pathway of feet that lead you to somewhere, and you might be scared because you don't know if on the other side you're going to get to where you want to go. But what the poem and the poet doesn't say is the other 2 choices are you could just stand still and keep looking at those 2 roads and never move your feet. Or you could turn your body around and go back to where you came from. But the point of the matter is, why would you do that? You already got to now where you are to make this new decision. Don't go backwards. In fact, I think, isn't it a story in the Bible where there's a lady who literally complained incessantly about leaving where they were? So finally, they leave this place that they were going to be living. And then things got hard. Jobs got hard. The weather got hot. People were complaining. So she decided to turn back and look back and wonder what it would have been like to just stay where they were. And boom, her body turned into salt and she died. So thank goodness that doesn't happen now, thousands of years later. But it was all because she needed to keep moving forward. And so Mel Robbins says, you control your next move. You can turn around, turn into a pillar of salt. You could stand still and be stuck in quicksand. You can go the pathway. Everybody says you should do this, you should do that, because that's what I think you should do, because you're letting them tell you what they think you should do. Or you could let yourself, the whole let me part, right? Say, no, maybe I'm going to take the road less traveled because that's what's going to give me joy and peace and help me uncover my dreams. And I could totally feel that that is what she must have been thinking when she finally said, you know what, I'm going to do that first speech and I'm going to do it for free. And then I'm going to do the next one. I'm going to do the next one. And maybe it's going to annoy my kids, and maybe it's going to upset my husband, and maybe my friends are going to look at me like I'm an idiot. She did all of it. And now she's one of the #1 podcasters, I think, right, out there. And she was just a person.
Yeah. And that's everybody's story, right? Like, we're all just people at the end of the day, right? Like, I think we get so intimidated, and I don't know how many executive coaches I've talked to who they're like, I sit inside these boardrooms I sit inside the office with the CEO, and that guy is just a guy. That lady is just a lady struggling with the exact same stuff that you are, right? Like, they're not special. They don't have anything different in them that you do, right? Like, they're just going after something different or bigger or whatever. But like, That Robert Frost poem is a great poem and really famous. And I love your perspective on like, we're missing that there are two other choices that a lot of us are making all of the time. And it's where we feel the most stuck. That choice of not moving forward, of staying still, that is where every client comes to me. They come to me in that moment of I can see two paths and I am miserable because I am sitting at the intersection, not taking a step forward.
Mhm.
And how many times do we do that, right? Like we struggle and we stress ourselves over and over because we are just not making the choice. Like there is so much relief in just making a choice. Like, just even if it's not a great choice, it's like it's fine enough. There's so much relief in it, and there's so much momentum that comes from making a little choice, making a little choice, making a little choice, right? Even if it's something as like I'm overwhelmed with the state of my house. I'm overwhelmed with the state of my laundry. I'm overwhelmed with the state of my dishes. And it's like just making the choice to do a dish, put in one load of laundry, do one thing can unblock everything. Just making the choice to have a conversation with somebody about these two decisions in your career you're trying to make can unblock something. But when you stay stuck, when you stay in this cycle of I'm not moving, and I'm just thinking, I'm just reading, I'm just learning, I'm just doing whatever, but you're never getting into the game, taking the step forward down a path. Any path is better than no path. Like you alleviate yourself of so much misery that you don't even realize you're causing yourself most of the time. And the backwards decision, we see that all the time, right? This is the yearning for what was in the past. This is the scrolling, back through old photos and thinking nostalgically about the way things were and times were so much simpler. People were so much blah, 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 like all the things. And it's like, this is where I think radical acceptance is such a important thing for people to embrace. And it's one of the things that the let them theory is based on is it is what it is. The past is done. You are where you are. Accept it. Act like it. Move on from it and take your power in the let me make a decision. Let me choose one of the two paths. Even if I choose the path more traveled, at least I'm moving forward and I can always divert later to a path less traveled. Just do something. Don't stand there. Don't look backwards in the rearview mirror. Those things don't serve you. And you're letting go of so much of your power. And she says, let me as an opportunity for you to put your time, energy, and values at the center of your life, right? And it's when you choose to let them, to give you the space, let them stress you out, but let me do something about it. You're making the choice to center the things you want in your life in action, in a step forward. And she says, and one of the things I've highlighted, like on the next page, is just do it anyways. Doesn't matter. It could be bad. It could be messy. Somebody could be telling you, oh, I wouldn't do that. No, I would never take a break between jobs. I would never, go try that business. I would never change careers. I would never leave a company like that. I would never leave a relationship like that. I would never do the thing. Who cares? Do it anyways. Like do it scared, do it shaking, do it when you don't feel confident, do it with all the imposter syndrome in the world pressing down on you, but do it. That's the point. And yeah, she says, if it matters, be the one everyone else is waiting for. And I just like, be the change you want to see in the world, right? Be the thing that someone else is waiting for the guidebook on, right? Write the story, tell the thing, live your life in a way where people feel inspired, even if it's just the people right around you.
And when you stop having momentum, go read Atomic Habits and listen to our episodes on that, because you can get really excited about wanting to do this thing once you finally say, fine, I'm going to let them be the way they are, and I'm going to be the way that I'm going to be, and I'm going to go after my dream. But then after you read Atomic Habits, you need to read The Obstacle is the Way, because obstacles will become a part of what happens in your life. And if you have the tools that it can equip you to get around them and to look at them as opportunities, you can either do one of the two C's she talks about in this chapter: complain, because everybody does it, and complaining just keeps you stuck. And she says talk is cheap, and I guess that's another C too. But the last C is that you can change. And so or you can choose, and you can choose. And so on that next page, which is almost at the end of the chapter, I think I highlighted underneath every single time she said, you get to choose. It was like Oprah, you get to choose, and you get to choose, and you get to choose. But she says you get to choose what impacts you and to what extent. You get to choose what to participate in and what you don't. You get to choose when a job or a relationship is worth fighting for or when it's time to leave. And you get to choose, which is why you're always in control of what happens next. And it is hard. It's easy enough to say, well, you don't have to stay at your job if you don't have another one and you need health insurance, or you are the sole provider for your family. But there's still a choice. You can stay stuck. I had a mentor once from John Maxwell team that would say that stuck stinks. You could stay stuck, but stuck stinks. And so why would you stay stuck? Why would you live the limited days that we're given on this earth in the hourglass of our lives, staying stuck, miserable, unhappy, letting other people dictate who you are going to be, what you're going to do, etc. And it's unnecessary stress on yourself. And so that's the problem in all of this, and why this chapter is so important, because people will annoy you and they will stress you out, and you will have people that want to press their own demands or thoughts or actions or choices onto you. And it's not saying that you just ignore the people that love you or that are around you, or that you take this attitude of like indifference. It's not that at all, actually. It's just about removing or reducing the amount of stress that you put upon yourself that comes from external forces. It's like the diagram that we had, I think, maybe during the John Wooden era of our books, where there was like a circle that said, here's all the things you can control, which had like two things inside of it. And then all the things outside the circle were the things you cannot control, but where we spend all of our time.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's key, is knowing the difference, right? And that's why I love just the simplicity of the way she's structured this theory, is like the let them acknowledges that bigger circle of like, there's a million things out there that are going to stress you out, that are to cause you problems, that are going to try to penetrate that inner citadel that we learned about in The Obstacles the Way, and that the Stoics talk about. But you have control over what you let inside those walls. You get to choose. You get to choose what happens. And it's not easy. And it's not the same in every situation. She says that a little bit earlier in the chapter, of like, your response to every situation is going to be unique and different every time, because you are going to be unique and different every time. And your response to similar situations might be different from one day to the next because of how much capacity you've got. Like, we are human beings who, aren't some static, like, oh, I'm going to go change the world every single day. Maybe changing the world looks different today than it does tomorrow. And she talks about that with a funny story in this chapter, but it's okay. But the point is that if something really, she says, talk is cheap. If it really bothers you, dedicate some time and energy to changing it. And that can be something big one day. It can be something small another day. The point is to do something with it, right? You have all this power and all of this control. And so let people do what they're going to do. Let them stress you out. Let them, let them think whatever they want to think about you. Let them not value you in the way that you need to be. And the question is, what are you going to do about it? What are you going to do with the things that come at you? And you have so much more power than you've ever realized. And that's where the let me, I think, part is just so beautiful. Let me figure it out. Let me figure out what's next and what I'm going to be doing with this situation from here.
The whole next section of the book talks about how you might feel really excited and empowered by what we just shared, but what do you do when you fear other people's opinions, especially because there's certain people's opinions, they don't matter, and you can maybe easily let them be what they are. But what do you do when you have other people's opinions that think bad things about you, that are people you care about and people you love? And so I'm looking forward to digging into that with you next week, Sam, because there are going to be people that hurt you because of their opinions of what you're choosing to do for your life that you're responsible for, which is your life. Yeah. And so we're going to get into that next week. And so is there anything else for today that you want to share with the listeners before we end today?
I think that the thing I would encourage people to think about is like, what is one area of your life that's stressing you out? Where is someone stressing you out? And where can you apply this? Like, well, let them. let them do what they're going to do. Like, let's radically accept the situation as it is, and then figure out what's one thing, one little way I can let me have power in this situation and let me take a little bit of control. And I think that those tiny little micro decisions, right? The atomic habits, the little things that become big explosions later are so critical. And so start with the thing. Start with one situation, one person that's stressing you out.
Yeah, I like that. I like that. I'll leave with just what she says in the last sentence of this chapter, which is, it is time to reclaim all of your time and energy for what matters most to you. There's a really good book that I read a couple of years ago by this father and son duo called Do What Matters Most. Life is too short for you to continue to let other people dictate how you're going to live yours. And I'm really glad that we got this book, Sam, because I said it last week. I'll say it again this week, is that I was really kind of like not resistant, but just thinking like, okay, yeah, we'll add it to the list. It's one of the books on the front of the shelf at Target or Amazon or Barnes and Noble. We might as well try it. The lady has a good following, but I wasn't really bought into it. This book so far is becoming, for sure, I would say, one of my top five of all the books that we've read so far through the last 4 years, 5 years, 4 years, something like that. It's good. It's good because it's just a reaffirmation about things that you already know to be true, and don't hold yourself back from what you were created to be on this earth. That's all. So that's what I would say in closing. I'm looking forward to next week, even though it's hard. Next week is going to be a hard chapter because it's about how do you go through the feelings when you have people that you really care about that decide that their feelings about your choices are more important than maybe their love for you. So
Hard topic. But it's gonna be good, and it's gonna be a good journey, and definitely tune in because we're gonna figure out how we let them and let ourselves work through that situation.
Yeah, we're going to do that. That was my phone just ringing from one of my favorite humans. So on that note, we're going to close for today. Thanks for joining us. If this was of value to you, will you please share it with others? We'd love to hear your thoughts as well. There's always ways for you to get in contact with us. And Sam has given a link to the book, which is on sale right now. And we're just so pleased that you're on this journey with us. And so for today, my name is Denise Russo. And on behalf of my friend Sam Powell, this has been another episode of What's on Your Bookshelf.